Hey guys, it's Misha here, and I've still been receiving a crazy amount of replies, comments, stories from you guys in response to my story about borderline personality disorder. And there is so many different aspects of borderline personality disorder that we don't usually get to see or hear about, because there are those 9 symptoms that are in the DSM, are in more scientific journals. They have the 9 characteristics or categories in which a person needs to meet 5 in order to be diagnosed. But there's also these little characteristics and little side effects of BPD that some of you may experience that are not necessarily being represented as part of a personality disorder, and can sometimes be misseen as something that is just just one of our characteristics as a person. But in all honesty, it is most likely the illness that is making us have these symptoms. So I'm just going to go through a couple of characteristics and little side effects that I've noticed from my BPD. Some good, some bad. I want to start off with a little bit of negative ones and then end up with the positive, so that overall you get the idea that having borderline personality disorder obviously is not so great, and it does take a lot of work to try and control. It can take years, to get fully better and to be able to treat yourself. And a lot of you guys are saying you're having trouble getting the correct treatment. So hopefully that by describing more of these characteristics that a lot of you can relate to, maybe you can go and inform your doctor about this, and it'll be a little bit easier to see and diagnose. As you know, borderline personality disorder causes a person to engage in impulsive behaviors that are sometimes reckless and dangerous to oneself or possibly others around them. Now, with that, they usually describe these impulsive behaviors being mostly, indiscriminate sex with multiple partners, which is usually what borderline personality disorder is kind of seen as in the media. It's kind of that sex-hungry, impulsively just sleeping with multiple partners. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're safe, but that's definitely not one of the core characteristics and criteria, and that's not the way that a lot of people can express their impulses. There are so many other ways. Substance abuse is such a huge part of borderline personality disorder and mental illnesses in general, because when you have a mental illness, you find it hard to relate to other people. You find it hard to find joy in things that you once did. Hobbies and interests, going to work and hanging out with people and being social can sometimes just be, something that you don't want to do, and it comes across as a burden. So by not being able to find any positive, healthy hobbies and relationships, it's easy to turn to these damaging behaviors, such as substance abuse. It's a lot more prevalent in people such as myself that have borderline personality disorder, bipolar, depression, anxiety, and all of that. So we are more likely to be around it. We're more likely to be exposed to it at a younger age because we engage in these unhealthy relationships, and usually that leads to obviously some negative paths. So substance abuse is definitely a big part of mental illnesses in general, and it can also usually make it worse, or it kind of muddies the whole being able to diagnose you with that one thing, because the psychiatrists are unsure if it's the drugs, the alcohol, or if it's just that illness. So they usually try to treat the substance abuse, but not the underlying condition which led to substance abuse in the first place. And I think that is so important. So if you're struggling with drugs or alcohol and you have borderline personality disorder, this is not your fault, and it makes sense why you would go and turn to these behaviors, because sometimes all you want to do is escape into your own mind, and that's why we do those impulsive behaviors. So some other ones that I found is excessive shopping and spending and speeding and doing all of these crazy things that are dangerous, especially the self-damaging, self-harming, cutting oneself. All of that is not part of the impulsive behaviors, but it can definitely be what one person decides to take their impulses out as. One of the other main things, and I talked to one of you guys because of one of my videos, my story. I got to talk to one of these girls, and she told me that she had been diagnosed originally with anorexia, and she was being treated with anorexia and that is when they found that she had borderline personality disorder. So, anorexia and bulimia, eating disorders in general, are another way that a person is able to get control over their life and possibly be able to take the impulses out on. So eating disorders are also a huge part of other mental illnesses. Borderline personality disorder, it's a lot easier for us to develop these unhealthy, negative thoughts, which could manifest itself into an eating disorder, because we naturally don't see ourselves as a person who is worthy. We can nitpick a lot easier. So that's another little thing. We'll nitpick and we'll find things about other people as well, but usually about ourselves that we don't like and that we need to change. And this can easily become an obsession. Another kind of characteristic I found that is not accurately represented when I'm looking at the kind of diagnosis and symptoms and overall characteristics of borderline personality disorder. I mentioned it in one of my other videos, and it's a whole idea of not having that one cohesive sense of self. Not being able to describe yourself when someone's like, so what do you do? What are your interests? You know, what do you like to do in your spare time? All of that. And for me personally, it's ever changing. Sometimes I'm the person, that loves to act and, be in plays. And other times I just like to be by myself and doodle art in my room. Other times I'm that hopeless poet, and sometimes I don't feel like I'm a person at all. And I thought that I was the only one in feeling this, and so many of you guys have told me that no, you experience that too. So I feel like we're definitely helping each other out with I feel like I'm less alone. I'm hoping that you guys feel less alone as well. I'm hoping that I'm able to connect with all of you and hear from you and hear from your experiences, because you guys are teaching me so much than I could ever teach you, and I'm so appreciative of it. I feel like I have such a better understanding of my illness. The fact of borderline personality disorder is the constant automatic response in our brains to think about the negative and to dwell on it. I have been known to just sit for hours and hours and just be so upset about a situation, and even if something has happened months ago, if I think about it a lot, it'll be like as if it's rehashed. A lot of times I'm in a situation and I'll look at it negatively. Not because, I want to put out negativity, because I know that putting out negativity will just lead to more negativity on myself. But it's just, it's just a natural instinct. It's probably because back when we were younger, we learned that these responses were, all that we knew. This is all that we knew. But now I'm trying to learn to be more positive, and it's taken years. I think that it's still going to take years, possibly years and years, to be able to fully have that optimistic attitude that is the ideal way of living. Being able to look past those negative situations and taking something positive from it regardless. So when I told you guys last time about the story about how I like to have positive relationships, I talked a lot about a negative relationship that I had had. And I realized that I had spent too much time talking about this negative person and all of the negative things that come from it, that I forgot to talk about all of the amazing people that I do have. I have so many great people in my life, especially now that that person is gone. But dwelling on that and by conversing about that negativity, it can just lead to a downward spiral. And once we've gotten going, it just continuously keeps going down and snowballs into, even more negativity, and that could lead to an episode. So obviously everyone's advice is to be positive, let it go, just, be positive. I said that twice. I don't really know how to do it personally, but it is definitely something that we should all be trying to improve about ourselves. Lastly, what I find with borderline personality disorder, which is a positive, because there's so many negatives, there's so many people that are out there to just try and make us feel bad for being different and for having neuroatypicality. But the positive thing about borderline personality disorder is that while we do find and feel such negative feelings, and we feel such deep sadness and rage instead of anger, it's always important to look at who we are when we're happy And people tell me that when I'm happy, when I'm in a good mood, I'm awesome to be around. Now, when I'm in a bad mood, I'm obviously not the best person to be around. But that means all I have to do is try and work to be more of that positive person and be who I was before all the negativity and before I had learned these negative coping mechanisms. So we can be positive. I know that all of you out there have an amazing side to you that is just so kick-ass, and we have that naturally. A lot of people need to work to be so awesome, but we naturally have that awesome part. It's just, you know, our dark passenger that you know, brings that part down. So we're so far up and we just get pushed back down. But if we stay up there, we can achieve so much. We can accomplish so much. We've already been through a lot, and taking it as a lesson learned and taking it on the back, or whatever they say, is definitely the step towards recovery. And it's so much easier said than done. I know it. You know it. But as long as you try and make that solid effort every time you see yourself, you know, thinking about someone that you don't need to think about because they're not in your life, they're never going to be in your life, you don't need them, so why think about them? Okay guys, thanks for watching. Keep sharing your stories, keep the conversation going, you know, subscribe, like, share, check out my Facebook page. It's about mental health support and awareness. So I'll see you guys next time. Guys, thanks for watching. Keep sharing your stories. Keep the conversation going. You know, subscribe, like, share, check out my Facebook page. It's about mental health support and awareness.